What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Just Thoughts podcast. I'm your host, Gabe here. Alongside me, as always, my buddy Kole Graham. Kole, how you feeling, brother?
I'm doing great today because it is our first time with video.
Yeah.
We just created a YouTube account, and congrats, guys. You guys are the first to check it out.
I know. I'm nervous. Do I look good?
Oh, you always look good.
I shaved. Not knowing that we're going to film, but I shaved.
See, I should have shaved a little bit. I know my mom's probably going to be upset about that, but oh well.
It's okay. It's all right. It happens.
Yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah,
Don't comment about Cole's beard.
Yeah, not today, guys. But here's our little setup, our little humble abode. It's not much, but we like it.
It looks good. But it's going to be cool. It's going to be cool seeing ourselves on YouTube. I'm scared, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited. But with that being said, we do have a great episode today. Cole, if you want to tell the listeners what it's going to be about.
Yeah, so today, guys, we're going to be talking about accepting our differences. In everyday life, you're going to find that you don't always agree with everybody. And we're not going to get into politics or anything like that. But of course, the idea stemmed from the election. At least that was where I got the idea from. But there's also differences in your everyday life. You're not going to agree with anything that happens most of the time, at least me. Most of the time I'm thinking I'm smarter than everybody and I don't need to listen to anybody else, but that's just not true.
Yeah. I think there's many different ways we can go with this, but again, I think we were talking about it before is like, it can go into social media, it can go into just sports teams. There's a lot of differences on there and just in all around in general, there's a lot of things that I think people aren't willing to open up about and be open to, especially when it comes to differences. It doesn't matter what it is, but any difference, people tend to be very strong-headed, I guess the word is, on their beliefs, whatever they think is right. They don't want to open their mind and kind of accept everybody and what else they think.
Yeah, and that's just the unfortunate truth because the reality of the situation is the reason why we have such great ideas comes from difference of opinions. Not everyone's ever going to agree with you, and that's great because it forces you to think more about what you're doing. And if you're thinking about it from a company standpoint or from a relationship standpoint, someone's going to have a better idea than you. And at some point, you just have to accept that and give in and say, you know what, you are right. We're going to go your way. And there's always going to be times where you don't like everything that happens. And there's going to be family members that have different values than you. And it's okay. You got to just learn to live with that because everyone is their own person.
Right.
You don't want to be told by your family member how you should be acting, would you?
No, not at all. Yeah, that would suck. And I think I can even think of an example when I was working for a small tech company. I think I talked about this company on the podcast before, Path Match.
Yeah.
Maybe not. But the CEO was just not meant to be an owner of a company. She was not meant to be the founder of a company because she did not accept anybody's ideas, anybody's opinions, didn't care about anything else except what she thought was right. And eventually the company went bankrupt. So that is a bummer.
Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah. But I remember vividly our social media manager, Alex, shout out Alex, she and I were coming up with new content ideas. We're like, hey, this would be a really cool idea. This is going to bring new followers to our TikTok or Instagram. This content seems to be doing really well within all these different other social media platforms. And so she goes into a one-on-one meeting with the CEO and I'm just waiting for a text back to see if we got the green light to start filming this stuff. And 20 minutes later, she comes back. She's like, no, she didn't like the idea. I was like, what? Like, why? We have all the proof. We did all this, all these spreadsheets, all these Google Docs, saying how this is going to boost our page by X many followers, by this much percent. And the her response was like, I just don't like it. What? I don't understand that.
Yeah, that's definitely a strange one because when you think of it as I've done all this work, right? Like you did. You do all this work and someone just outright says no. While they could have their reasons, you obviously feel like, okay, they should have at least listened to me. And that's a huge issue with a lot of things because when people disagree, it's sometimes ending friendships. It's ending relationships with family members or boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband. All the other examples I can think of.
Right.
And that really shouldn't happen because everyone should know I'm my own person. I have my own beliefs. I don't want someone telling me what to do. Same goes for you telling other people what to do or what to think. Because like I said, we're not going to really talk about politics or list any reasons to agree or disagree, but there's people out there that will outright not talk to someone if they're on the different side. or
Which is
they don't
crazy.
agree with what the other person believes. And the thing with that is we're so blindsided by the fact that I think this way and this is right. And that happens all across our lives. And that's really a bad place to be because you close yourself off to so many new opportunities and new friendships.
Yeah, 100%. And I think a lot of people don't understand that you don't have to agree with them. Like on any subject, could be, you know, politics, religion, whatever. It just because you have a certain view on something and another person has a certain view on something doesn't mean you have to be like, oh yeah, I'm going to 100% come over to your side and agree with you. It's like, no, you can have a conversation with that person. You may disagree, but I think where people get lost is like the disagreement doesn't have to lead to arguments and yelling, right? Because when, you know, you see it on the news, you see it on social media, you see it all over the place where one side is saying something, another side is saying something, and then all of a sudden everyone's getting upset and yelling at each other. That doesn't have to be the case. You can have it doesn't have to be the best of our conversations, but those are the conversations that you have that open your mind to a different point of view of life, like a different perspective. Because I think, like, say, for example, someone says, hey, I like pineapple on pizza, which I know you do.
I love pineapple on pizza.
And I hate pineapple on pizza, right? And I always say, like, no, it should not be on pizza. It's a fruit. It tastes weird. And you can go on and on about how it does deserve to be on pizza. And I can go on every single day saying it doesn't. But when you open your mind, you'd be like, okay, Kole thinks this. That kind of makes sense. And you're like, okay, Gabe thinks this. That also kind of makes sense. So just having that open connection, open channel is very, very important, I think. I mean, I don't know. What do you think? Is that important?
Yeah, that's obviously a very mild version of the topic because that's nothing that we're going to ruin our friendship. I mean, unless you really feel passionate about your pineapple on pizza, we could ruin our friendships like that. But it's something where it's like, I'm the president of the club baseball team, as we've stated many times. If I just outright did not listen to my board or did not listen to what the team has to say, I could think I'm doing everything right, and then they're telling me otherwise. I'd be dumb to not listen to what they have to say because they're just as much involved in this club as I am. And just because I hold the role of president, that doesn't mean that I have the greatest ideas ever. I do think I have very good ideas, of course, and I do everything right in my own mind, but there's always ways to improve. And I know that, you know that with whatever you're doing in your job. And like you said, with the, what was it, path match?
Yeah, with path match. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure you thought you did great, but there's always a chance to be better. Mm-hmm. And that really comes from listening to people who have different opinions from you and people that challenge you. And it's almost one of those points where you have to think of it as they're not disagreeing with me because they just want to disagree. Mm-hmm. They disagree because they have ideas that they also think could work. And when you look at yourself in the mirror thinking, the reason they feel this way is because I also have ideas that I think could work. Mm-hmm. And if you two come together to form some sort of agreement or new idea, then of course there's going to be a better idea that stems from that. Because once you're challenged, it tricks your mind into thinking, okay, now I got to work overtime. I got to be better here. And if you accept that, you lead down the path of success. At least I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think something I want to pick on is when someone is trying to give you, not give you a new idea, but is suggesting, hey, here's how we can go a different direction. That we call that like feedback, right? Like when you say, hey, I have this idea, someone's like, it's good, but can I give you some tips or some pointers on it? Obviously that's feedback. And I think a lot of people take feedback as a negative thing. Like they take it as like, oh, this person is trying to make fun of me, or they're coming back at critiques on my idea. And then we get defensive. And then like, that's very similar. Like, for example, going back to the pineapple on pizza example, just because I'm making fun of your views on why pineapple should be on pizza doesn't mean I'm making fun of you. It just means I'm just not into the idea.
You just don't agree.
You just don't agree. Right. And I think that's the biggest thing is like when you're in a disagreement or a hard conversation with somebody about whatever it is, you know, say it's the club baseball and like someone saying, hey, we should play Cal Poly Slow instead of playing, you know, UC Santa Barbara. You know, they're just giving you feedback on why this should be a thing. And they're not actually coming after you, right? They're coming after the idea of like, here's why I think it's better. And I think that's where people get, you know, defensive and stuff is like, hey, I think you're making me feel bad. But in reality, they're not trying to make you feel bad. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been in that situation where I've taken feedback negatively because there obviously are times where people are saying it just to put you down.
Right. Of course.
Most of the time, it's the thinking that you just said of someone just coming to you with an idea of how to be better. And there's been times in my life where I've heard feedback, whether it's from my parents, my family, or friends, that it's just like, why are you telling me this? I already know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And I get so defensive. And I think everyone could probably tell you they do the exact same thing.
Oh, 100%.
Obviously, some worse than others. I can agree that I don't take feedback that well, but that's one of the reasons why I want to talk about this today, because it's something I'm working on. It's something that everyone could benefit from. And it's just something that we all have to get over.
Yeah.
It's simple as that.
Yeah. And I think it also makes you a better person if you can have those hard conversations and be able to take feedback. Because if you're able to be open with someone else's differences, then it shows that you're a person of growth. Because at work, we actually talk about one of our main core values is grow or die. And it's not as intense as it may seem, but basically saying that if you're not willing to be able to continue to develop as a person, from just getting feedback and having hard discussions, then you're not really developing into the best version of yourself. Right. And I think that's something that I also struggle with and I want to work on, is being able to receive feedback. And even if it's harsh feedback, sometimes like it's going to be tough feedback. Like, hey, you didn't do this project well at all. It's all messed up and you just suck. Not like in a bad way, but it's just like you got to start from scratch. And that's always tough. But if you're able to, develop and just be like, okay, it's not coming from a place of harm. It's coming from a place of, I know how good you are and how I see you as a better version in the future if you can just start from scratch. Does that kind of make sense? Is that kind of like connecting together? Because I think it's also hard because it's like, when it comes to, what today's topic is about is obviously two people having two contradicting ideas or beliefs. That's where people are like, hey, I see what you're saying. And when you're defending your idea, it's not coming from a place of harm. It's coming from a place of, hey, these are just my beliefs. I'm not trying to hurt you, but I'm just trying to tell you how I feel. And I think that can connect to many, many different areas of life, like relationships, work, club baseball, whatever it is, But I think that's how I kind of see it.
Yeah. And I kind of want to tie that into like bullying, because there's a lot of times, at least in my own experience, where I've had someone tell me something and I didn't agree with them. And I felt that it was the opinion of, I don't think you're good.
Well, you're getting choked up here.
I know, I really am. But it comes from that opinion of, I don't think you're good at this. And I took it that way. And obviously this was when I was younger. I was in, I think, elementary school or something, where anytime someone would ever tell me something, I would get so upset and I'd get in fights with them. And of course, most of the time it was because they were teasing me. Mm-hmm. But I've learned to just agree with that. Just be like, look, they're trying to get under my skin, or they're just trying to tell me to be better, or, hey, your idea sucks, man, make a better one. We just have to get over the fact that we're always right, because we're not. And even when I was younger and still today, I still think I'm always right. Mm-hmm. And that leads to people getting upset. I've turned it into anger. I've turned it into fighting my friends. Luckily, my friends are still friends with me. I've told a few of them multiple times. I'm like, I don't know why you guys were still friends with me back then, because I was a mean kid. And obviously I've since grown up to be more mature and I'm not fighting anyone anymore, but there's still going to be times where people challenge me on my ideas and people will say something different than what I believe, or even if it's not something about my ideas or it's my values, that's even more important, because those are something we hold on our whole lives. Mm-hmm. And values can change here and there, but most of the time they stick with you.
Yeah.
So understanding that, you've said it before, we're on one little rock in the universe, right?
Yeah.
And that's such a crazy thing to think of, because we're stuck here on our rock, this earth, with everyone that's on it.
Yeah.
And if we can't see eye to eye on things, we have to learn how to establish some sort of relationship that works anyways.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that was beautifully said. And I think going back to the point of when people are trying to get under your skin because they're trying to, push you to a certain idea or something, I think that can go to a little bit deeper. I know we don't have to go fully into this, but I think it's also a part of like, there's some sort of healing that they need to do, because we're all healing in some sort of fashion, whether it's mentally, physically, spiritually, we're always healing in some sort of fashion. And when it comes to differences, I think people take the trauma or some sort of like, you know, unhealing process that they've done, and they take it out on you. So for example, like someone is bullying you, right? And they're like, you know, this is like 5th grade Kole, and you guys are in class and they're just picking on you for whatever. It could be anything. That doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong. It just means that they're coming after you because something is happening in their lives or inside them that is pushing them to be like, hey, if I make this kid upset, then I'll feel better. If I make this kid, you know, if I make Cole Graham cry or make him feel bad and then he retaliates, then I'm going to feel better later in the day. Yeah. Which isn't true, right? You know, obviously this topic kind of goes away from the, you know, two sides of
it's all involved.
It's all involved with bowling, but you know, that's what I've noticed is like, it's someone who hasn't fully understood that, hey, there's something inside me going haywire, that they're trying to use it externally and hurt somebody else. If they realized what they were actually doing, they'd be like, whoa, that's kind of messed up. Like, why am I hurting someone else? When internally they're actually hurting. I know it's very deep, but it's true. Like, they are hurting inside, and they're trying to use that hurt to make someone else hurt so they don't feel alone. As you were saying, like, we're on a big rock by ourselves, or maybe not by ourselves, but they're trying to make someone else who seems like they're doing all right, like, start crying or, you know, react in a certain way, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I totally get what you're saying, because that's all true.
Yeah, it is. And going back to what we were originally talking about with the differences, I actually had a real life example a couple weeks ago at work in the gym. There's these 2 clients, I'm not going to name any names, but they have 2 political views that are very different, very, very different. And they're the best of friends. They like hang out every day. They work out together in the same session. They go get coffee. Their kids actually hang out all the time. They've been friends for many, many years. Obviously, they have known each other for a long time, but they have 2 different views. And it's kind of cool because they put those views aside when they're together. Or if they are talking about it, they don't let it escalate to a certain degree, right? Like, maybe they bring up some sort of topic and they let it, you know, they talk about it a little bit, but it doesn't go anything past like the screaming and the yelling. They never get to the screaming and the yelling part, which I think is what it was a great example to see like what it can be like when 2 people have different views come together and actually are, you know, really close, even best friends.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful, because that's what it really should be. I mean, most of my close friends, we don't share every value that's the same. Most of the values align, but not all of them will, and they never will. So that's a great example of knowing that you can be peaceful with people you don't agree with. And if there's one thing that you guys take away, I keep forgetting of the camera. Yeah. If there's one thing that you guys take away from today, it's just be kind to everybody. You're never going to agree with everybody, and that's okay. You're not supposed to. So no matter who it is, just be kind to them. Understand that you guys are different people. You wouldn't want them to judge you for a few of your choices or a few of your values, because that doesn't define you as a person. Just one decision that you make to vote for someone, or to say that this team's your favorite, or you would rather do this instead of that, you can't judge someone just on that, because that's not their whole character. That's not their whole personality. And that's something I'm definitely trying to learn more about myself, of how I can do that as well. So, of course, once I do, I'd be a happier person because of it. But yeah, you guys can definitely take that into your lives and just do with that what you will.
Yeah, I think it's a great way to end. And if I can add one more thing before we close out, is everyone's healing. Everyone's going through a process. Everyone's going through something. You may not see it on their face or physically. Maybe it's internally and emotionally. So just treat people, as you said, with kindness, you know, with a grain of salt and with an open heart. And what would be kind from you guys is to give us a follow on our Instagram and TikTok at Just Thoughts Pod. That's at Just Thoughts Pod. And wherever you listen to this podcast, whether it's on our Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave us a review and subscribe and a comment, and we'll see you guys later.
And also on YouTube, leave us a comment on there and subscribe to there as well.
Oh yeah, and on our YouTube. See you guys later.
See you guys.